Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our ARP COBRA Subsidy webinar. I want to go over a few housekeeping matters before we get started. First, this webinar is being recorded, and we will distribute the recording along with slides to all who have registered. So feel free to share with any of your colleagues who might find this information helpful who couldn't join us today. If you are using your internet audio, the audio may be dependent on your internet connection. So I do recommend that if you're having any audio issues, that you try calling in on the phone number provided on the panel. We will be answering questions submitted today throughout the presentation in the question box. And we will include the question and answers in a follow-up in case we aren't able to get to all of the questions today during the webinar. So if you do have questions in your panel, there is a questions box. If you click on the arrow, it will allow you to ask a question. Additionally, on the panel, there is a handout. This handout is information on how to update the COBRA qualified beneficiary status in the Pro Benefits system. This was also provided in an email to employer clients, but the handout is there in case you need another copy. Again, thank you for joining us for this ARP COBRA Subsidy webinar. It's been a busy year or so in the benefits world with lots of changes, many of which have turned some of the tried and true principles of benefit compliance on their head. I think many of us have experienced a lot of those changes, employers and brokers alike. These changes have required swift action and collaboration between employers and partners, and we are honored to be your trusted partner to help you navigate through all of these changes, including the COBRA Subsidy changes we're going to be talking about today. So some quick updates before we get started. I am joined today by Sheila Cohen, Compliance Counsel at Pro Benefits, and April Spadafora, an account manager who has a wealth of experience and provides excellent support to our COBRA employer clients. Sheila is our newest attorney. She is new to Pro Benefits, but not new to the employee benefits world, with over 20 years of experience. Many of you may have already worked some with Sheila, but I'm excited for you to get to know her and to work with her. She is a great addition both to Pro Benefits and our compliance team, which includes myself and John Cobble. We do have a link on our website, probenefits.com, for employer advisor partners. We will also be adding information for individuals on the COBRA Subsidy, so all of the materials and emails that we are sending out, you can easily access those at the link at the top of our website. We will continue to send compliance alerts and updates as needed as we get additional information from the agencies or additional information that we need to share with you. And we also have educational and training materials available about COBRA and any related topics that might be of interest to you and your teammates. I just want to remind you quickly to make sure you're following us on social media for news and helpful information. We've got all of our social media buttons there. From time to time, we have had some drawings for prizes, so be sure to follow us and keep up with the latest. And as always, our team is always here to assist you every day, whether it's COBRA or any other need that you may have. Make sure that you reach out to us and we can help you. So today, again, we're going to be talking about the ARP COBRA Subsidy. To be mindful of the time, we're going to do a very, very quick COBRA refresher. Many of you have attended our COBRA webinars in the past, and we could spend this whole time together talking just about COBRA and not about the subsidy, but the subsidy is what's the latest and greatest right now. So we will include some detailed slides with additional COBRA refresher information when we send those slides out with the recording. And as always, if you have any general COBRA questions or COBRA Subsidy questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can assist you. So we're going to do the quick refresher, and then we're going to get into the new COBRA Subsidy rules. We're going to talk about next steps for employers, provide you with some information about how to make updates in the Pro Benefits portal, and then take your questions and answer them in the question panel. Again, if you have questions during the webinar, feel free to open that questions panel and submit your questions. So COBRA in the simplest form, while there have been many benefit compliance principles that have changed during the COVID pandemic, the basic premise of COBRA remains unchanged. So in its simplest form, COBRA is when a health plan participant loses group health plan coverage, and we refer to that individual as a qualified beneficiary or QB, due to a qualifying event, they may elect to continue that coverage for a limited period of time by paying for the coverage. So the qualifying events for under COBRA, there are 7 listed here. These are our standard COBRA qualifying events. The 2 that you see in red, termination of employment and reduction of hours, are really the qualifying events that we are going to talk specifically about with respect to the subsidy. And these are reductions of hours, that's whether voluntary or involuntary, and involuntary terminations of employment. So how did we get here? We've gotten here very quickly, but Congress passed ARP and President Biden signed the law on March 11th, 2021, and it includes many provisions that affect employee benefit plans, including this 100% COBRA subsidy. So far, with respect to guidance as of today, as of 11:07 a.m., we have only received guidance thus far from the Department of Labor. I will say I fully anticipated, in the spirit of things, that we might see guidance first thing this morning before this webinar from the IRS, but we have not received that yet. But we have received some guidance from the Department of Labor, including an FAQ that was primarily aimed at informing individuals. If you have read the FAQ, it is specifically directed at individuals who may qualify for the subsidy or who have questions about whether they qualify, but it does provide some helpful information for employers. As directed, the Department of Labor also issued model notices, and they have established a dedicated website related to the COBRA subsidy. I've put the web address here if you want to take a look at it. Currently, the website contains the FAQ and the model notices. There are many unanswered questions. We're going to talk about some of those a little later. I anticipate that we will see some IRS guidance. I've heard rumblings about IRS guidance, but we have not seen anything yet. So we will keep you posted if and when that guidance comes in. So let's talk about the COBRA subsidy and break it down into its simplest form. We're going to take a look at each of these elements in more detail, but I wanted to break this down into its simplest form before we do that. So it's a 100% COBRA premium subsidy for all group health plans except for health FSAs, which are specifically excluded, available to assistance eligible individuals, or AEIs, and we're going to talk about who those folks are, for up to 6 months. And that 6-month period is April 1st through September 30th of 2021. The premiums are paid by the employer and reimbursed through a payroll tax credit. So let's start with, what does 100% subsidy mean? A subsidy eligible individual, so this is an AEI, is not responsible for any portion of the COBRA premium that would otherwise be due during the subsidy period. The guidance from the DOL, as well as the law itself, makes clear that this includes any administrative fee. So when a COBRA participant is making a premium payment pre-subsidy, they would be paying 102% of the COBRA premium. So the employer payment of 100% is the COBRA premium plus the 2% administrative fee. And then the employer is reimbursed for that payment through a payroll tax credit. So what employers have to comply? The ARP is very broad. It includes private employers, whether they have fully insured or self-funded plans, employee organizations such as unions that are subject to ERISA, so both private employers and union plans subject to ERISA. It also includes state and local governments. We've put on here that those are subject to PHSA. This is the law that provides that state and local governments have to comply with COBRA, since those entities are not subject to ERISA. For employers whose plans are subject to state continuation, it is the insurance carrier who is responsible for compliance with the subsidy requirement. So the notices, premium payments, tax credits are all the responsibility of the insurance carrier versus the employer. So now that we know who has to comply, let's take a look at what plans are and are not impacted by the subsidy. So the ARP states that it applies to all group health plans sponsored by the employers that we just talked about. And the law defines group health plans broadly by referring to the definition of that term as stated in ERISA. So it's not just medical plans. It includes dental, vision, HRAs, and a variety of other plans that provide medical care. So those of you familiar with COBRA will recognize this as plans subject to COBRA, with one particular exception. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but health FSAs are specifically excluded from the COBRA subsidy. So an individual cannot receive a COBRA subsidy for their health FSA benefit, but a health FSA is a COBRA eligible benefit. So you still have to offer COBRA, and the individual will still be required to pay premium, but it is not impacted by the subsidy. The remainder of these plans listed on this slide are benefits that are not COBRA eligible benefits. So we know who has to comply, what plans are included or not included. So let's look at how long the subsidy actually lasts. Those of you who are around in the benefits world during the ARA subsidy in 2009 will remember that that subsidy period was much longer. The ARP COBRA subsidy period is a much shorter period. It's 6 months. I think some of this, the shortness of the period may be adding to some of the delay in the guidance because this happened very quickly and the subsidy is for such a short period of time. But generally, the subsidy period is April 1 through September 30, 2021. However, the period will end for a particular AEI earlier if that individual reaches the end of their maximum COBRA coverage period. So the subsidy does not extend the maximum COBRA coverage period for an individual. The subsidy will also end if the individual becomes eligible for other comprehensive group health plan coverage, such as coverage through a new employer's plan or a spouse's plan, or becomes eligible for Medicare. And many of you are probably wondering, as an employer, how would you ever know if someone becomes eligible for other group coverage or Medicare? And the answer is you won't. It's the individual's responsibility to notify the plan that they have become eligible for that coverage. There are penalties that may apply for failing to do so, and the notices that go out to individuals do contain information about the requirement to notify upon eligibility and the penalties for failing to do so. Before we jump into more specifics about who is eligible and the notice requirements, I want to step back for just a moment and look at the mechanics of how the subsidy will work from a high level for ProBenefits clients. So ProBenefits provided all of our COBRA clients with a list of QBs in our system with a reduction of hours or termination as their qualifying event. You as the employer will identify in the ProBenefits system individuals who are AEIs. These are folks who have had an involuntary termination or folks who have had a voluntary or involuntary reduction of hours. And Sheila's going to get more into the specifics of who's an AEI in a little bit. Once we know who the AEIs are, ProBenefits will send the required notices and attestation form to the AEI. Individuals will use the attestation form to attest that they qualify for the subsidy and don't have disqualifying coverage. So they will attest that they are not eligible for other coverage or Medicare. The AEI will return the required forms and attestation form to ProBenefits. Once that happens, the AEI will begin to receive subsidized coverage. And I just want to clarify, if there are any questions about this, that AEIs are not actually going to receive direct payment of the subsidies. And the subsidy amounts paid on their behalf are not considered taxable income. So the employer will make premium payments, again, that's the 102%, for the coverage for AEIs during the subsidy period, April 1 through September 30th, or when the subsidy period ends for a particular AEI is earlier than the 6 months. An employer will then recoup the COBRA premium payments they have made through their quarterly tax credits against their payroll tax liability, and this is against the Medicare tax. Any AEIs who have paid for any month that falls in the subsidy period must be reimbursed, and they have to receive a refund within 60 days of the payment. So if someone pays for April, they will receive reimbursement of that payment. And then finally, ProBenefits will send a subsidy expiration notice. This is one of the required notices we're going to talk about a little later, 30 days prior to the subsidy end date. So that's the mechanics from a high level. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sheila so she can go through the specifics of the subsidy, starting with AEIs and who's eligible for the subsidy. Sheila?
Great. Thanks, Laura. Excuse me. So as Laura mentioned, the subsidies are available. Let me advance the screen here. To assistance eligible individuals, or AEIs. An AEI is any person, and we're talking about either an employee or any family member who's had plan coverage and becomes eligible for COBRA continuation coverage on or after October 1st of 2019. As Laura mentioned, the folks that fall within the AEI category are those who have experienced a COBRA qualifying event due to an involuntary termination of employment or a reduction in hours. The reduction in hours can be either voluntary or involuntary, and examples of those would include employees who have gone from full-time to part-time status, someone who's on a temporary leave of absence, maybe the company's hours of operations have changed as a result of the pandemic, and the hours requirement for the individual is no longer being met, but they're still employed. What's a little more murky is who satisfies the definition of an involuntary termination of employment. And we've received a couple of questions into ProBenefits on that issue so far. Unfortunately, that's one of the issues that the Department of Labor has not provided specific guidance on this time around, but we know from the ARA guidance that was provided at the time the ARA subsidies were offered that the involuntary termination of employment should be terminated broadly. And what we caution employers on here is that they need to be sure who they include in the list and make sure that they include people that have truly suffered an involuntary termination of employment, because there is a risk that they'll be penalized for failing to offer the subsidy to somebody who qualifies but that the employer has not identified. So, in addition to these requirements, this is actually a two-page definition of who falls into the category of an AEI. Oops, I went too far. We are talking about folks who are either currently enrolled in COBRA continuation coverage or somebody who is now electing COBRA continuation coverage, either due to a qualifying event that occurs between April 1st and September 30th, which is the subsidy period, or an individual who is subject to an additional election opportunity that is provided specifically under ARP, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. One thing to keep in mind is that the COBRA subsidy does not allow folks that are in the AEI category to double dip. And by that, I mean an AEI that is enrolled in and eligible for Medicaid, or somebody that is in the marketplace, is still eligible to receive the COBRA subsidy if they've otherwise met the conditions, so they've lost group health coverage. However, if those individuals are receiving a premium tax credit, an advance payment of the premium tax credit, or any health insurance tax credit that would otherwise be available, they're not also able to receive the subsidy during that same period. There are some exceptions to folks that would otherwise be included in the AEI category, and Laura touched on these briefly earlier. Those include individuals who are eligible for Medicare and individuals who are eligible for other comprehensive group coverage, either through an employer or a new employer or a spouse's plan. And one thing I'd like to note here is that when we say eligible for other coverage, that individual does not necessarily have to be enrolled in that other coverage. The mere fact that they are eligible for such coverage disqualifies them from receiving the subsidy. The other group that I didn't mention, the first one identified on the slide, is employees who were terminated for gross misconduct and their family members. So this is a typical exclusion under normal COBRA rules, that employees who are terminated for gross misconduct do not have to be offered COBRA. So that exception is just in line with the COBRA norms. Having a little trouble advancing the slides, but okay. I mentioned earlier that AEIs include folks who elect COBRA during an additional election opportunity. And by that, we mean that these people are being given a second bite of the apple to elect COBRA. Someone may fall within that category if they're still within their maximum COBRA coverage period as of April 1, 2001. So that means that they've lost group health coverage within the last 18 months preceding April 1, and they're still within that maximum COBRA coverage period. And they've either previously declined COBRA coverage, or they've previously elected COBRA coverage and later discontinued or allowed the coverage to lapse, such as through non-payment. One thing I'll talk about a little bit more later is the parameters around which those with the additional election opportunity are able to elect COBRA currently. Affected individuals will have 60 days to elect COBRA coverage after they receive the notice from the employer. The coverage is prospective and it may begin either as of April 1st or as of the date of their COBRA election. One thing to keep in mind here is, and this is where things get confusing with the prior rules that we've talked about throughout the pandemic period and the outbreak rules. Those rules give both employers and COBRA eligible employees an opportunity to extend various deadlines. When we're talking about AEIs in connection with the subsidy, we're not talking about that same group of people where the folks that have an additional election opportunity are treated separately from the folks that are subject to the outbreak period. That basically means that there's no requirement that AEIs elect COBRA coverage that is retroactive to the date of the loss of coverage or the date of their qualifying event. As Laura mentioned, the maximum COBRA period will not be extended beyond the original 18-month period for those with an additional election opportunity. So let's just give an example. An AEI whose COBRA coverage would have begun back on November 1st of 2019 will be given an additional election opportunity now. However, they will really receive only 1 month of subsidized coverage because the subsidy is available from April 1st to September 30th, and this person has reached the end of the maximum COBRA coverage period at the end of April. So as if employers didn't have enough on their plates just dealing with ARP, one of the things that's included in the latest guidance is an opportunity for employers to allow AEIs to enroll in coverage that's different from the coverage that was in place at the time of the qualifying event. We give the parameters here, and the only other thing I'll say is that the AEI in this situation has 90 days to make an election to switch to a different plan. But because this opportunity adds just an additional layer of complexity to a situation that is already extremely complex, we don't really think that this option for employers is particularly practical, or that many employers will take advantage of this separate opportunity to offer a change in coverage. So Laura mentioned that there are new notice requirements, and I'm mostly going to skip this slide and go to the next slide because it provides much more extensive information. But one of the forms that we haven't seen before and that is unique to the COBRA subsidy situation is the subsidy eligibility attestation. And this, as Laura mentioned, is an opportunity, or we're making it a requirement, but it's an opportunity for those who we believe satisfy the AEI requirements to document and demonstrate that they have in fact met the requirements and don't have other disqualifying coverage. So the type of notice that an AEI receives is going to depend on what category of AEI they fall within. So qualified beneficiaries who become eligible for COBRA between April 1 and September 30th must be notified at the time of their COBRA, they receive their COBRA election forms normally of the right to elect COBRA and of the right to the premium assistance that is being offered from April 1st through September 30th. These qualified beneficiaries will then have 60 days to elect COBRA coverage and complete an AEI attestation. So if you're looking at this date and you realize that we're now at the end of April, you'll understand that there are probably some qualified beneficiaries who've already received a COBRA election notice, but haven't received the rest of what would be in the packet, which is the right to the premium assistance and the attestation. So in that instance, a second notice will be required. There's a different type of notice that's going out to qualified beneficiaries that are currently receiving COBRA coverage. And the folks that fall within that category are those that have elected COBRA prior to April 1st. These folks must be notified by May 31st of the right to the premium assistance coverage that will be in place from April through September, unless it ends earlier because they've reached their maximum COBRA period. These qualified beneficiaries will have 60 days to complete the AEI attestation in order to receive the subsidized coverage. So, for those AEIs that are entitled to an additional election opportunity, here we're talking about qualified beneficiaries who prior to April 1st either declined COBRA or elected COBRA and then later discontinued it or allowed it to lapse. Once again, these AEIs must be notified by May 31st of the additional election opportunity, or the fact that they have now a second bite of the apple with respect to the unexpired portion of COBRA, and the right to premium assistance with respect to the coverage period between April 1st and September 30th. These qualified beneficiaries, once again, will have 60 days to elect COBRA and complete the AEI attestation. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, an AEI may elect to receive the premium assistance prospectively from the date of their COBRA election or as of April 1st, 2021. Another group of AEIs, and I haven't spent much time on these, are individuals who become eligible for state continuation coverage under what we typically refer to as mini COBRA. And we're referring to individuals that become eligible for that between April 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2021. But those individuals are going to be notified by their health insurance carrier. And so that's one of the reasons we haven't focused on this that much, is because you as employers and we as your TPA don't have anything specific to do in this situation. But those individuals will be notified of the right to continuation coverage and of the right to premium assistance with respect to the April 1st to September 30th coverage period. So the final notice, if I'm right about that, yes, is the notice of expiration of the COBRA subsidy. There we go. So this goes out to AEIs that are receiving the subsidy, and they must be notified of the expiration of the subsidy assistance. That notice must be furnished between 15 and 45 days prior to the date that the subsidy would expire. As Laura mentioned, Pro Benefits is intending to send this notice 30 days prior to the expiration, so well within the 15 to 45 day period. The notice must include the subsidy expiration date, which will either be September 30th or the last day of the individual's maximum COBRA coverage period. And the notice will also include some general information relating to health plan coverage options that are available to the AEI upon the subsidy expiration. And by this we mean some individuals may be entitled to continue receiving COBRA, only the COBRA won't be subsidized. They may have an opportunity to elect marketplace coverage or other individual or even group coverage. So just as a reminder, we've talked about different limitations throughout the presentation regarding folks that are eligible for the premium assistance. And one of the things that I mentioned also was that the ARP subsidy rules do not alter the rights that individuals have in connection with the outbreak period with respect to different COBRA deadlines that have been extended. One thing to keep in mind is that there are no extensions whatsoever that apply to the notice and election period relating to the subsidies. So, oh, thank you for advancing my slide. So that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that's being offered. And again, and I think we've kind of beat a dead horse on this, but the ARP does not extend AEI's maximum COBRA coverage period beyond its original expiration date. And I want to make sure that we give April, who's the star of the show today, enough time to give her presentation and give you some really important information. So the next slide identifies some of the unanswered questions which we've already hit upon in the presentation. One of the things that we expect to get more information on soon, as Laura mentioned, is how employers are actually going to be able to obtain the tax credits and what they need to do in order, what filings and submissions they need to make. And at that, I'll turn it over to April.
Good morning. Thanks, Sheila and Laura, for all the information we're getting here on the ARPA. So the hot topic is what are the next steps, and what do I need to do for Pro Benefits to make sure that all of our eligible AEIs are taken care of. So earlier this week, we sent a list to all the COBRA clients that had a list of potential AEIs. What we ask is that you review the list and go in to mark each AEI as eligible or ineligible. And then we have a deadline of May 7th that we're hoping that you will upload your list to the Pro Benefits COBRA portal and do that by May 7th, please. Required notices will start going out mid-May, and only the eligible AEIs will receive these notices. AEIs will complete an attestation form of eligibility before the subsidy is active. And there's a couple ways that we can update the AEI status. And one is by logging into the Pro Benefits portal at the cpb.probenefits.com. And the other is you can go to our website, the Pro Benefits website, and there will be instructions for download on the ARP COBRA Subsidy page. If you only have a couple of AEIs, you may want to do a manual process, which is pretty easy. All you need to do is go to Find Member Record. You'll scroll down to the event information, and then you'll update the AEI 2021 status to eligible or ineligible, depending on the termination type. Then you'll click Update. And then at that point, you will want to run your QB AEI report by going to the Imports Reports tab, and then click on Standard Reports. And then you want to select your report type. And then the report type is going to be the QB AEI 2021 report. And then at this point, you can update your email address, and you will be notified once the report is complete. You'll send Run Report, and then at that point, you're going to go to the job queue and retrieve your report. And by doing that, you'll go again to Imports and Reports. You'll go down to the job queue. Under Active Jobs, there's going to be Download Results, where you can review the message out to the side. If it says complete, the report is complete. And then at that point, you will be able to go under Download Results, view the report, and view it. We ask that you edit the QB AEI report to get it ready for import. The only thing that you're going to need to do is update column D, and that is where the AEI status is defaulted to unknown, is what it's going to show. But if you want to update these to either eligible or ineligible, and then you're going to save this report as a CSV file. And then again, only the eligible AEIs will receive the required notices. Then you're going to import the QB AEI report, and you'll do that again by going to Reports. You'll make the selection AEI 2021 status report. You'll select the CSV file that you just saved, and then you can change your email or enter your email enter your email address so that you are notified when the status update is complete. Then you'll simply click Run Status Update, and then it will be in your job queue for you to retrieve the report. And pretty simple instruction on how to get your AEIs updated in either our system or simply importing the report, which is very simple steps. But as always, we are available to help you. You can either contact myself, April Spadafora, or Marianne Johnston for questions in doing the imports, or if you have questions regarding the COBRA point itself. Always, we can be emailed at cobra@probenefits.com, and we're always happy to help. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn this back over to Laura.
Thank you, April and Sheila, both for walking through the ARP COBRA subsidy with me and helping employers see how to update these statuses in our system. COBRA has always been complicated, time-consuming, and involved risk. We know that as benefit professionals, but it's even more so now. There are a lot of complexities, not only with the COBRA subsidy that we talked about today, but also with the outbreak period guidance that came as part of the COVID relief that provides extensions of non-subsidy deadlines. So please, please, please know that we are here to help you. Any questions that you have, whether it's COBRA generally or subsidy specific, please reach out to us and let us help you navigate that process. Again, we have a dedicated COBRA Subsidy link on our Pro Benefits website. That is a place, when you go to our website, on the banner at the top, you will see a link that includes a link to all of the information that we have put out about the COBRA Subsidy, including questions, alerts, and so forth. So a great place to go if you're looking for something and maybe you can't find what you're looking for in your email, it will be in that linked area on our website. Again, if we can help you with COBRA administration, please let us know. We'd be happy to do that. In addition to administrative support, we do have training options and compliance assistance available to you with regard to COBRA or any other benefits that we administer. Again, we provide administration for health FSAs, HRAs, HSAs, COBRA, POP, and transit. So any of those areas that we can assist you with, please let us know, and we'll be happy to reach out. We do offer ERISA compliance services, including Form 5500 preparation and WRAP SPD preparation. And feel free to reach out to our compliance team if you or your clients have any needs in that regard. And again, we have myself and Sheila Cohen as benefits attorneys and an experienced compliance team with John Cobble. We can certainly help you with any compliance needs that you may have. And we wrapped up a little early today, but we are going to respond to the questions that you have submitted in the questions section of the control panel. So we're going to hang around for a little while and answer those questions. Again, we will send out a Q&A at the after the webinar as follow-up with answers to the questions that we received. If you have a specific question pertaining to your benefit plan, or you have a question that you think of after this webinar has concluded, you may always email us at cobra@probenefits.com and we can assist you then. So if you'll hang around, we'll begin answering questions. I know that our team has been answering questions throughout, and there are lots of questions as expected about the COBRA subsidy. So we'll keep answering those. And thank you again for taking time today to be with us for this COBRA subsidy webinar. And we look forward to seeing you at future webinar sessions.